Hello, it is Friday, October 16th. We made it to another Friday. Wow. 5 weeks till Thanksgiving break. Pretty exciting. So we've been learning about smophoria. You did a good job on your brain pop video for similes and metaphors. So all of this is called figurative language, literary devices. And today we're going to look at something called imagery. And you heard that right, imagery. You can see that the root word of imagery is image. If you've ever heard the word image before, you might be thinking about picture, okay? So when you think about image, you think about a picture. And when authors use imagery, they want to create a visual picture in your mind of what they're trying to tell you. Just like with figurative language, okay? So just remember that, imagery. It truly is trying to create a picture in your mind, and they're using sensory language, the 5 senses: see, smell, taste, hear, touch, okay? When they use the 5 senses and they use really vivid words, really colorful words, they're trying to paint a picture in your mind what you're reading. Because you're not watching it on the screen, you're reading the words, and so you want a little movie playing in your head as you're reading the book. Okay. So today with imagery practice, we're going to actually look at little pieces of text, and I'm going to teach you how to find that imagery and what it means when the author's trying to use it. Okay. Edwin's grandmother didn't get angry when she saw the horrible mess in the kitchen. In fact, she decided to take part in the fun. She put the peas on her spoon, bent the spoon back, and flung them toward Edwin before he even saw that she was there. They landed with a splat on his glasses, and he looked up surprised. "Gran," he said, "what on earth?" In a matter of minutes, the rest of the vegetables were dancing all around them like performing artists. The carrots somersaulted like gymnasts, and the string beans moved in wide arcs of leaping ballerinas. Okay, really vivid language there. You could really picture this. And I actually, when I read this, I thought about you and your grandma, Maddox. And I wondered if you and your grandma ever had a little food fight in the kitchen. So I can actually picture the spoon flinging peas, and then all around they have vegetables flying in the kitchen. And in fact, here's a simile here, okay? The vegetables were dancing all around like performance artists. Okay, so the vegetables were like performance artists. Those are your comparisons. The carrots somersaulted. That's personification. Can carrots really somersault? Do like a flip? No, they can't. Splat, that's an onomatopoeia word. Okay, so lots of good figurative language being used, very visual in your brain. And it tells us to read this little piece from this paragraph. And we're going to talk about why the author uses this imagery. Okay. She put the peas on her spoon, bent the spoon back, and flung them toward Edwin before he even saw that she was there. They landed with a splat on his glasses, and he looked up surprised. "Gran," he said, "what on earth?" The author uses the imagery in these sentences in order to A, show that Gran's actions were meant to punish. Did Gran mean to punish him, or was she playing around? B, convey, which means to show that Gran's actions were unexpected, not expected. Was Edwin surprised? It even says that he was surprised. I didn't think he expected Gran to do that. Did the author use the imagery of these sentences in order to demonstrate that Gran's actions were hurtful? Was she trying to hurt him? No. The author uses the imagery in these sentences in order to reveal that Gran's actions were not a surprise. They were a surprise. It said explicitly right here that he was surprised. So your best choice here is B. The author is using the imagery to convey or show that Gran's actions were unexpected. They were not expected. Edwin was shocked. He was surprised, as I am, reading the passage. So think about that when you're thinking about imagery. Why is the author using this imagery? What's his goal? What's his purpose or her purpose? Okay. Let's look at another one. Winnie spent hours each day that summer at the beach. She'd listen to the ocean and feel the wet sand under her toes as she stood at the shoreline. The sun warmed her skin and she watched children swimming, but she didn't go into the water herself. That was the August when Winnie's world began crumbling around her. She was 12 and soon she would turn 13. She had just moved to this quiet seaside town. She missed the crowds and the lights and even the noise of traffic in the big city where she lived until that July. More than anything else, she missed her friends. She'd stay at the beach until the sky was a dark bruise above her head and the last of the children disappeared into their homes. Okay, this is a nice little metaphor. The sky was a dark bruise. A bruise is sometimes kind of dark, grayish. So it's saying that the sky was a dark bruise. There's no like or as being used there, so it's a metaphor. And the sky is being compared to a bruise. Okay, pretty cool. So let's look at this little excerpt here. She'd listen to the ocean and feel the wet sand under her toes as she stood at the shoreline. The sun warmed her skin and she watched children swimming, but she didn't go into the water herself. Let's think about what the author's trying to say in this little piece of the paragraph. She'd listen to the ocean and feel the wet sand under her toes as she stood at the shoreline. Again, these are senses, right? Listening, that you're hearing, right? Feeling the wet sand in your toes, that's a sense of touch. Okay? The sun warmed her skin. That's, again, touch. The sun touches your skin. She watched with her eyes, sight, the children swimming, but she didn't go into the water herself. Okay? Lots of sensory detail using the 5 senses. Why does the author use this sensory detail? Is he doing it to convey or show? Convey means show. That Winnie loved the beach? Maybe. That Winnie did not know how to swim? C, that Winnie was having a bad day? D, that Winnie was interacting with her surroundings? So this one's a little bit more difficult, okay? By this little piece of text, do we know if Winnie loves the beach or not? She's having a hard time because she just moved to this shoreside town, seaside town. And she missed the city and she missed her friends. So I don't know that she's loving it yet. That's not the feeling I get when I read the passage or this little piece. I don't know if she knows how to swim or not. I mean, it said she didn't go in the water, but we don't have enough information to know if she can actually swim or not. She was having a bad day. She might be sad, but I don't know that she's having an entire bad day. That's a big assumption. I don't think we have enough text evidence. D, that Winnie was interacting with her surroundings. I think think about this 5 senses that you use when you do interact with your surroundings, okay? She's listening, okay? She's feeling, okay? She's watching. So using your senses, you interact with things around you. And that's why the author put that in there, to show that she was trying to interact with her surroundings, because these are now her new surroundings. She's moving there, okay? So she's using her senses to take it all in. So D is your best choice here. Here's another one. Sarah stood at the edge of the racetrack, her eyes squinting in the sun. She was worried. The new car was rickety. It was like driving a milk crate, but she wouldn't withdraw from the race. She'd been at the track late every night for weeks, preparing for this race. The breeze picked up the smell of stale gasoline and oil, and her eyes burned. So that last little sentence, the breeze picked up the smell of stale gasoline and oil, and her eyes burned. The author uses imagery in this sentence to show what? A, Sarah is negatively affected by her surroundings. B, the smell is making Sarah too sick to complete the race. C, Sarah may need to wear goggles. D, racetracks are bad for your health. Okay, let's look at D. Racetracks are bad for your health. Is that what the author's trying to show us? Or is he just telling a story about Sarah because she's at the racetrack? I don't think it has anything to do with racetracks being bad for our health. We don't know that. I mean, he's not persuading us that racetracks are bad for our health. So D is not an answer. C, Sarah may need to wear goggles. I mean, maybe. I don't know that we can eliminate that one or pick that one, but let's keep going. B, the author uses imagery in this sentence to show that the smell is making Sarah too sick to compete in the race. I don't know that it's making her too sick. It didn't say that she started hurting or her stomach started hurting. All it said is her eyes burned. I mean, I don't know that we have enough text evidence for that as well. And she said blatantly she wouldn't withdraw from the race. A, Sarah is negatively affected by her surroundings. Well, let's think about this. She was worried about her rickety car. Okay. She didn't want to withdraw from the race, though, because she'd been working hard. And then it picked up the gasoline and the smell of gasoline and oil, and her eyes started burning. So I think things around her are affecting her negatively. But she's going to push forward with the race because she said she's not going to withdraw. So there's kind of a negative tone to this little passage anyway, but the answer is A. The author's trying to say that she's not feeling very positive. These are kind of negative words. Okay. Let's look at this last one. At the end of the debate tournament, Samantha was a tornado of emotion. Why hadn't she done more to prepare like Patricia suggested? She was mad at Patricia and mad at Mr. Atkinson, and more than anything, she was mad at herself. In the cafeteria, strangers congratulated one another and talked loudly about their matches. The girl with the short red hair high-fived a tall boy wearing a suit jacket, and they smiled at each other. Samantha found a table that was empty and sat down. Her shame insulted her continuously with a sharp voice. It had been the worst argument in the history of competitive debate. She was sure of that. So let's look at the piece of text that the author's really using descriptive words in. In the cafeteria, strangers congratulated one another and talked loudly about their matches. The girl with the short red hair high-fived a tall boy wearing a suit jacket, and they smiled at each other. So it's describing each of these debaters, right? Girl with short red hair, tall boy wearing a suit jacket, and they smiled at each other, okay? Why does the author include this description of the kids in the cafeteria? Is it A, to show how Samantha was feeling? B, to explain why Samantha was so upset? C, to convey how it feels to win? D, to reveal that the kids were being disrespectful to Samantha? Okay, what is this all about? It's kind of about, well, think about this first sentence. At the end of the debate tournament, Samantha was a tornado of emotion. Emotion means feeling, okay? So why is he including this specific description about those kids in the cafeteria? Is it to reveal or show that the kids were being disrespectful to Samantha? No, they weren't directly disrespecting her. They just got out of a tournament and they were coming to the cafeteria and they were all talking with each other and congratulating each other. It had nothing to do with Samantha. C, to convey how it feels to win. We don't even know who won. I mean, you could have just been saying good job. Maybe you didn't know who won or not yet. B, to explain why Samantha was so upset. Well, explain why she was upset at the very beginning of that little excerpt, but not necessarily at the beginning of that paragraph, but not necessarily in this little piece that we're focusing on. A says to show how Samantha was feeling. Yeah, she's feeling pretty. She's feeling pretty bad about herself. But in this specific piece right here, she gives some high five to some boy because she's mad at her debate partner. But in this little piece of that's the key that we're looking at. Just this piece here. It's just showing how she was feeling, and because that's what that's kind of revolves around the whole paragraph. Okay. All right. So that's all we're going to look at today. So that's imagery, painting a picture in your mind using sensory details, the 5 senses. And you have to think about why the author's doing that. Okay, and that goes right along with our figurative language lessons, literary devices lessons. So keep that in mind. So all you're doing today is just watching this video for imagery, and you're not turning anything in, and read your library book for 15 minutes and enjoy your weekend. Thanks.